Ban This Book by Alan Gratz, a First Chapter Friday read aloud with a mystery quote from The Word Nerd. Today, as you listen, watch for the story quote that will appear on screen. Write it down word by word and then follow the instructions given to you by your teacher. Stay all the way to the end to see if you've written it down correctly. Hey teachers, be sure to check out the back matter of this book. There's discussion questions, activities, and all sorts of connections to Common Core standards. Hi, my name's Amanda Zieba. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd, and another First Chapter Friday video. This week I'm going to be reading to you from Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. And I have to tell you guys, once I started this book, I could not stop. I literally read it over the course of 2 days because I was sucked in, and I think you are going to be as well. Part of the reason that I just had to keep reading and find out what happened is because sometimes we use books to help us figure out situations in our real life. We have troubles that we don't know the solution to and problems and we're not sure of the answer. Sometimes we can find the answer by living through a character vicariously in a book. That means that we learn from somebody else's experience. I'm going to read you the blurb so you know a little bit more about what this story is, and then we are going to dive into Chapter 1. It all started on the day Amy Ann Olinger tried to check out her favorite book in the whole world. From the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. From the school library. That's when Mrs. Jones, the librarian, told her the bad news. Her favorite book was banned. All because a classmate's mom thought the book wasn't appropriate for kids to read. Amy Ann decides to fight back. Soon, she and her friends find themselves on the front line of an unexpected battle over book banning, censorship, and who has the right to decide what they can read. I'm going to read you a few of these endorsement statements right inside the book cover. An endorsement statement is when somebody well-known says praise or good things about the book, trying to convince other people to read it. Sometimes you could consider my words to you as an endorsement, but here's some people, what they had to say. A book lover's book that speaks volumes about kids' power to affect change at a grassroots level. And I will agree with that, like a book lover's book. I love books about books. A stout defense for the right to read. That's what Kirkus Review says. And Booklist says, an inspiring story about good trouble that's worth the consequences. So let's figure out what Amy Ann is going to do about her favorite missing book. This is Chapter 1 of Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. You might recognize that name. I've read another book of his on this channel before. It's called Refugee. I will link it in the description box in case you want to read that one as well. The Mystery of the Missing Book, Chapter 1. It all started the day my favorite book went missing from the library. I didn't know it was missing. Not yet. In my mind, it was still sitting there all alone on a shelf like a kid in the cafeteria, waiting for her one and only friend to come and find her. Waiting for me to find her. All I wanted to do was run to the library and check out my favorite book before homeroom, but Rebecca, my one and only real-life friend, was still talking about trademarking our names. Have you ever thought about registering amyannolinger.com? Rebecca asked me. No, Rebecca. I have not thought about registering amyannolinger.com. I am 9 years old. Why in the world would I bother to register a website with my name on it when my parents won't even let me use Facebook yet? That's what I thought about saying. What I said instead was, no. You should, Rebecca told me. You've got a unique name, but even so, somebody could register it, and then what would you do? RebeccaZimmerman.com is already gone. I'm 10 years old, and already my future intellectual property is being snapped up. Jay-Z and Beyonce trademarked their baby's name less than a month after she was born. You'd think my parents would have known enough to do the same. Rebecca's parents were both lawyers, and she wanted to be one too when she grew up. I couldn't imagine a more boring job. I said, yeah. I was still itching to get to the library and check out my favorite book. I opened my locker to stuff my backpack inside and gave my mailbox a quick look. Nobody knows how it got started, but everybody at Shelbourne Elementary has these cardboard boxes taped to the inside door of their lockers, just below those little vents they put on there in case you get stuffed in your locker by a bully. If you want to leave a note for somebody, you just slip the piece of paper in the slot and it falls right into the little cardboard box. It's such a tradition that Mr. Crutchfield, the custodian, just leaves the boxes in the lockers from year to year. As usual, my mailbox was empty. Which I'd expected. My one and only friend doesn't believe in writing notes. Never leave a paper trail, Rebecca says. More advice from her lawyer parents. Did you hear about Morgan Freeman, the actor? Rebecca asked. Somebody who wasn't named Morgan Freeman registered his name at morganfreeman.com and he had to sue them to get it back. Now, that's an interesting case. I can't imagine anything less interesting, Rebecca. I don't care anything about trademarks or registering domain names. I have to go and check out my favorite book before somebody else does. That's what I wanted to tell her. Instead, I held up a handful of books like a shield and said, I have to return these books to the library before class, and backed away before she could tell me more about the court case. I'll see you in homeroom, I called. Normally, I would already have my favorite book checked out and in my backpack, but our librarian, Mrs. Jones, has a rule that you can only renew a book 2 times in a row, and then it has to sit on the shelf for 5 whole school days before you can check it out again. She says it's to make sure other people get a chance to read it, but I think she made that rule up just to make me read other books, which I would have done anyway. I dumped last night's books in the book return and waved good morning to Mrs. Jones on the way to the fiction shelves. Amy Ann, Mrs. Jones called. Honey, wait, just let me grab my book, I called back. I turned into the H through N shelves and hurried to where I knew my favorite book would be waiting for me. Only, it wasn't there. I looked again. It still wasn't there. I looked behind the books in case it had gotten pushed back and was hidden behind the others like they sometimes do, but no, it really wasn't there. But my favorite book was always on the shelf. Could somebody else have really checked it out? I was about to go and ask Mrs. Jones when she turned down the row. Mrs. Jones is a big white lady with short brown hair and rhinestone granny glasses that hang around her neck on a chain when she isn't reading. Today she's wearing a red dress with white polka dots. Polka dots are her thing. Where's my book? I asked her. That's what I was trying to tell you, honey, Mrs. Jones said. I knew that you would come for it first thing. It's been 5 days, I told her. I marked it down on my calendar. I get to check it out again after 5 days. You said so. Did somebody else check it out? No, Amy Ann, I had to take it off the shelf. I frowned. Take it off the shelf? What did she mean, take it off the shelf? Mrs. Jones sighed. Why? She wrung her hands. She looked like she was about to tell me my dogs had died. Well, honey, because some parents got together and said they didn't think it was appropriate for elementary school, and the school board agreed with them. Wasn't appropriate? What does that mean? It means I can't check it out to you, honey, or check it out to anybody else, not until I talk to the school board and get this nonsense overturned. It means, Amy Ann, that your favorite book is banned from the school library. Ugh. You want to find out what happens next, what Amy Ann does about this, how she learns to speak up for herself, how she gets her classmates involved, and actually what this does to the reading habits of the students at Shelbourne Elementary School, you're going to want to pick up a copy of this fabulous book. It inspired me in so many ways. In fact, it also inspired my selection for next week. Normally I have these things planned out, but after reading this book, I've decided to shake things up in my normally type A organized world. And I'm going to jump in and I'm going to read you from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. This is a really beautiful copy that I got from Wild Rumpus Bookstore in Minneapolis, or St. Paul, one of the two. I can never remember. And I just thought that since Amy Ann loved it so much, and I love it, it'd be a great book to share with you all. So come see me next week for this one, and I will tell you more about the Newbery Award-winning book that has just been banned from Amy Ann Olinger's library. That's it. I'll see you guys again next week for this book and every week for more First Chapter Friday videos. Happy reading! To continue reading Ban This Book by Alan Gratz, pick up a copy from your school library, purchase one from a local indie bookstore, or grab it via the link in the description box. Then be sure to check out the rest of the full First Chapter Friday playlist. I have tons of great middle grade and young adult novels waiting for you. Today's mystery quote says, "Good books shouldn't be hidden away. They should be read by as many people as many times as possible." Thanks for stopping by my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd. Please like this video and subscribe. You can find more great content from me online at these places. Happy reading, and I'll see you again next time for another First Chapter Friday video.